Did you know that approximately 17% of people who have a near-death experience report a complete transformation of their beliefs and lifestyle? Zachary Blackwood is one such individual whose encounter with Jesus during clinical death led to a radical shift in his sexual identity and spiritual understanding. Zachary's story is not just a statistic, it's a deeply personal account that challenges our perceptions of reality, love, and the afterlife. As we delve into his experience, consider this. If 17% of people can have their entire worldview altered by a glimpse beyond death, what might we learn from their journeys? Zachary Blackwood's life was about to change forever on what seemed like an ordinary Tuesday morning. As he navigated his sleek Audi along the winding Route 7, his mind drifted to the upcoming Pride Parade he was organizing with his partner, Marcus. At 32, Zachary had it all: a successful career as a marketing executive, a loving relationship, and a strong sense of purpose as an LGBTQ+ activist. He believed he was living his truth, advocating for others to do the same. The crisp autumn air filled his lungs as he rounded a bend, admiring the vibrant foliage that lined the road. In that moment of distraction, fate intervened. A massive bull moose, its antlers spanning an impressive width, suddenly emerged from the tree line. Zachary's eyes widened in shock as he instinctively jerked the steering wheel, sending his car into a violent spin. The world became a blur of motion and sound. Metal crunched, glass shattered, and Zachary's body was thrown about like a rag doll as the car rolled multiple times before coming to rest on its roof. The once pristine vehicle now lay mangled, a testament to the devastating force of the impact. Emergency responders arrived on the scene within minutes, but the complexity of the rescue operation quickly became apparent. Zachary was trapped, his body contorted in the wreckage. Firefighters worked tirelessly, using the jaws of life to carefully extract him from the twisted metal. As they finally freed him, the extent of his injuries became clear: multiple fractures, internal bleeding, and severe head trauma. Paramedics swarmed around Zachary, their faces etched with concern as they fought to stabilize him. His vitals were weak and fluctuating, each breath a labored struggle. As they loaded him into the waiting helicopter, the gravity of the situation weighed heavily on everyone involved. Zachary's life hung by a thread, his future uncertain. The helicopter blades whirred to life, lifting Zachary towards what they hoped would be life-saving medical intervention. But fate had other plans. Halfway to the hospital, Zachary's heart stopped beating. The medical team sprang into action, their hands moving with practiced precision as they performed CPR. For 2 agonizing minutes, Zachary Blackwood was clinically dead. They managed to revive him, but the respite was brief. Minutes later, his heart failed again. Once more, the team battled against time and mortality, their efforts fueled by a desperate determination to keep Zachary alive. It was during these moments of clinical death that Zachary's consciousness began an extraordinary journey, one that would challenge everything he thought he knew about life, love, and his own identity. As the helicopter touched down on the hospital's helipad, Zachary clung to life by the slimmest of margins. The trauma team that received him worked with grim determination, fully aware that his chances of survival hovered around a mere 20%. They rushed him into surgery, a flurry of activities surrounding his broken body as they fought to repair the damage and stem the tide of internal bleeding. While the doctors battled in the operating room to save Zachary's physical form, his consciousness had already embarked on an unexpected odyssey. Unbeknownst to the medical team working feverishly to preserve his life, Zachary was about to experience something that would fundamentally alter the course of his existence. As his body lay on the operating table, teetering between life and death, Zachary's spirit was poised on the threshold of a revelation that would shake the very foundations of his beliefs and identity. In near-death experiences, many people describe a peaceful journey towards a warm, welcoming light. But Zachary's experience was far from peaceful. Instead, he found himself pulled into a terrifying vortex that would force him to confront the weight of every decision he'd ever made. As the medical team fought to revive Zachary's physical body, his consciousness separated, floating above the scene. He watched in awe as the paramedics worked feverishly on his lifeless form below. The surreal nature of the moment struck him. He was simultaneously the observer and the observed, caught between two realities. Suddenly, an invisible force gripped Zachary's spirit, pulling him away from the helicopter. He felt himself being sucked into a swirling tunnel, the sensation akin to being drawn through a vacuum at impossible speeds. Unlike the gentle transition often described in near-death accounts, this journey was intense and overwhelming. As Zachary hurtled through the vortex, his senses were assaulted by an array of extraordinary stimuli. A deep, resonating hum vibrated through his very essence, while colors he had never seen before swirled around him in mesmerizing patterns. The experience was both terrifying and awe-inspiring, stretching the limits of his comprehension. Time seemed to lose all meaning as Zachary traveled through this otherworldly passage. What felt like hours to him was likely mere seconds in the physical world. Yet in this stretched moment, he began to feel the profound weight of his life's actions pressing upon him. Every choice, every word, every deed Zachary had ever made suddenly became tangible. He experienced them all simultaneously, feeling the physical burden of each lie, each hurt, and each selfish decision. The weight of his actions was crushing, forcing him to confront the true impact of his life in a way he never had before. As this reckoning unfolded, Zachary's relationships came into sharp focus, particularly his bond with Marcus. What he had always viewed as a loving partnership was now revealed in a startling new light. He saw dark spots on their souls, representing the spiritual harm their relationship had caused to both of them. This revelation shook Zachary to his core, challenging everything he had believed about love and identity. The tunnel experience forced Zachary to confront the consequences of his choices, not just for himself, but for those around him. He saw how his actions and beliefs had rippled outward, affecting others in ways he had never considered. The weight of this responsibility was immense, forcing him to question the very foundations of his identity and purpose. As the vortex began to slow, Zachary found himself approaching what seemed to be the end of the tunnel. The swirling colors and intense sensations gradually faded, giving way to an indescribable space that defied earthly understanding. He felt himself being drawn towards this new realm, sensing that an even more profound revelation awaited him. Zachary's spirit hovered on the threshold of this mysterious space, poised between the familiar world he had left behind and the unknown that lay ahead. Little did he know that this was merely the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything he thought he knew about himself, his beliefs, and the very nature of existence. As Zachary's spirit crossed the threshold into the unknown, he was suddenly engulfed by a presence so overwhelming it defied all earthly description. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to stand before the divine? Zachary was about to find out, and the encounter would shatter every preconception he had about love, authority, and his own identity. In this vast, indefinable space, Zachary found himself face to face with a being he instantly recognized as Jesus Christ. But this was not the gentle, meek figure he remembered from Sunday school paintings. This was the King of Kings, a presence of such profound authority and majesty that Zachary felt compelled to kneel before him. The sheer power of divine love and judgment radiated from Jesus, filling Zachary with a mixture of awe, reverence, and trembling. The intensity of being in the presence of such ultimate authority was beyond anything Zachary had ever experienced. He felt completely exposed, as if every thought, every action, every justification he had ever made was laid bare before this all-knowing being. There was no hiding, no pretense possible in the face of such pure truth and love. As Zachary grappled with the overwhelming nature of this encounter, Jesus began to communicate with him, but it wasn't through words as we understand them. Instead, the message flowed directly into Zachary's consciousness, bypassing language and speaking straight to his soul. The truth of his life, his choices, and his identity was revealed with crystal clarity. The message Zachary received was both loving and profoundly challenging. Jesus conveyed that while Zachary was deeply loved, that love did not equate to acceptance of all his choices. Every justification Zachary had made for his lifestyle crumbled in the face of this divine truth. He realized that his sexual orientation itself wasn't the issue. Rather, it was his choice to act on it and to embrace it as his core identity that stood in opposition to the divine design. As this revelation unfolded, Zachary began to see the true nature of his actions and their consequences. He witnessed how his lifestyle and choices had affected not only himself but also those around him. His advocacy and encouragement of others to embrace homosexuality was now revealed as leading them away from salvation, a realization that shook him to his core. The weight of responsibility settled heavily on Zachary's spirit. He saw how his well-intentioned support of the LGBTQ+ community had unintended spiritual consequences. The truth of divine love and design stood in stark contrast to the cultural acceptance he had championed, revealing a sophisticated form of deception that had led many, including himself, away from God's truth. As this profound understanding washed over him, Zachary sensed that Jesus was preparing to show him even more. The air seemed to shift, and a feeling of anticipation built within him. He realized that this encounter, as earth-shattering as it had been, was only the beginning. Jesus was about to reveal the far-reaching consequences of his choices, not just for himself, but for all those his life had touched. Zachary braced himself, knowing that what he was about to witness would challenge everything he thought he knew about love, truth, and the very nature of existence. The journey of revelation was far from over, and the most difficult truths were yet to come. The air around Zachary seemed to thicken with an unseen tension. Jesus was about to reveal something that would shake Zachary to his very core. Have you ever considered how a single choice might ripple through eternity, affecting countless souls along the way? With a gentle yet firm guidance, Jesus began to show Zachary the true extent of his influence. It was as if a veil had been lifted, allowing Zachary to see beyond the physical realm into the spiritual consequences of his actions. He witnessed a vast tapestry of interconnected souls, each one touched by his words, his advocacy, and his lifestyle choices. Jesus revealed a spiritual holding place, a limbo of sorts, where souls lingered in a state of stagnation. These were individuals who, like Zachary, had justified their lifestyles by misinterpreting Scripture. They clung to their earthly identities, unable to move forward in their spiritual journey. Zachary's heart sank as he recognized faces among them, friends he had encouraged, strangers he had influenced through his activism, even those he had never met but who had been swayed by his public advocacy. The weight of this revelation pressed upon Zachary's spirit. He saw how his well-intentioned support had inadvertently led others away from divine truth. Each instance of his LGBTQ+ activism now played before him like a somber film reel. Pride parades he had organized, speeches he had given, personal conversations where he had affirmed others in their choices. All of these moments now carried a profound spiritual significance he had never before understood. As the full impact of his actions unfolded before him, Zachary felt a crushing sense of responsibility. He realized that what he had believed to be acts of love and support had, in fact, been steps away from salvation for many souls. The unintended harm caused by his advocacy became painfully clear. Each word of encouragement, each gesture of support for the LGBTQ+ lifestyle had been like placing a stone around someone's neck, weighing them down in their spiritual journey. Jesus showed Zachary specific moments where his influence had led people astray. He saw a young man who, inspired by Zachary's openness about his sexuality, had embraced a lifestyle that distanced him from his faith. He witnessed a woman who, encouraged by Zachary's activism, had chosen to leave her marriage and pursue same-sex relationships, causing ripples of pain through her family and community. The revelation continued, and Zachary began to understand a deeper truth about love. True love, he now realized, sometimes meant speaking difficult truths rather than simply affirming everyone's choices. He saw how helping others find their way to God's truth was of paramount importance, even if it meant challenging popular cultural movements. As this profound understanding settled upon him, Zachary felt the immense weight of his past actions. Yet, alongside this burden came a glimmer of hope. He sensed that this knowledge was not meant to crush him, but to transform him. There was a purpose behind this revelation, a divine plan that extended beyond his personal journey. Jesus' presence radiated both judgment and compassion, and Zachary understood that this was not the end of his story. There was more to come, more to learn, more to understand. As this realization dawned, the spiritual landscape around him began to shift once more. Jesus was preparing to show him something even more profound, a reality that would challenge everything Zachary thought he knew about the consequences of human choices. Jesus' compassionate gaze held a hint of sorrow as he prepared Zachary for what came next. "Are you ready to see the ultimate consequence of free will?" he asked. The weight of those words hung in the air, foreshadowing a revelation that would forever alter Zachary's perception of human choice. With a gentle gesture, Jesus unveiled a vision of hell that shattered every preconception Zachary had ever held. This was no fiery pit of torture or realm of demonic tormentors. Instead, Zachary witnessed a stark, desolate expanse of utter isolation. The overwhelming sensation was one of complete separation from God's love, a void so profound it seemed to consume everything in its path. As Zachary's consciousness absorbed this haunting reality, he felt a deep, visceral understanding take root within him. Hell, he realized, was not a punishment created by an angry deity. It was the natural, inevitable result of choosing to live permanently separated from God's presence. The souls he saw in this realm had made their decisions during their earthly lives, and those choices were now eternalized. This revelation struck Zachary with the force of a spiritual thunderbolt. He saw how every decision, every action taken in life, carried the weight of eternal consequences. The concept of free will took on a new, sobering significance. Zachary understood that God's love was ever present, ever available, but it could be rejected. And in that rejection lay the seeds of this profound separation. As this understanding settled into Zachary's being, Jesus began to reveal deeper truths about sexuality and gender. The divine context of male-female union unfolded before Zachary's spiritual eyes. He saw the intricate, beautiful design of complementary souls, a reflection of God's own nature of unity and diversity. This sacred bond transcended mere physical attraction or societal constructs. It was a spiritual reality woven into the very fabric of creation. Zachary's perspective shifted dramatically as he witnessed this divine plan. His past advocacy for alternative lifestyles now appeared in a starkly different light. He saw the spiritual darkness that surrounded events he had once celebrated: pride parades, same-sex marriages, gender transitions. What had seemed joyous and liberating on the surface now revealed a deeper, more troubling reality. The weight of responsibility settled heavily on Zachary's spirit as he realized the full impact of his influence. Every time he had encouraged someone to embrace homosexuality or affirmed them in rejecting their biological gender, he had unknowingly led them further from God's design and closer to this state of eternal separation. As the vision began to fade, Zachary felt a profound shift in his understanding of love and truth. He now saw that true love sometimes meant speaking difficult truths, even when they were unpopular or challenging. The cultural movements he had once championed now appeared as sophisticated forms of deception, leading souls away from the path of salvation. Jesus' presence radiated both compassion and unwavering truth as the vision concluded. Zachary sensed that this revelation, as earth-shattering as it had been, was not the end of his journey. There was more to come, a choice to be made that would change everything. As this realization dawned, the spiritual landscape began to shift once more. Jesus was preparing to present Zachary with a decision that would determine not only his own fate, but potentially impact countless other souls as well. The heavenly courtroom materialized around Zachary, its ethereal walls pulsing with celestial light. In this moment, suspended between life and death, he stood at a crossroads unlike any he had ever encountered. Two paths lay before him, each promising a radically different future. But which one held the key to his true purpose? Jesus, radiating divine authority and compassion, presented Zachary with a choice that would alter the course of his existence. On one hand, Zachary could choose to face immediate judgment, accepting the consequences of his past actions and beliefs. This path would lead him directly into eternity, bypassing any further earthly experiences. On the other hand, he could return to his physical body, armed with the profound revelations he had received during his near-death experience. The weight of this decision pressed heavily upon Zachary's spirit. He understood that returning to Earth meant facing immense challenges, He would have to confront the very community he had once championed, potentially losing friends and facing backlash for his newfound convictions. The comfortable life he had known would be forever altered. Yet the alternative, immediate judgment, carried its own sobering implications. As Zachary grappled with this monumental choice, Jesus began to reveal a greater purpose behind his potential return. Zachary saw glimpses of lives he could touch, souls struggling with the same issues he had faced. He witnessed the potential impact of his testimony, how his story could serve as a beacon of hope and truth for those trapped in the cycle of misinterpreted sexuality and identity. The vision expanded, showing Zachary specific individuals whose lives could be transformed by his experience. He saw young people, confused and seeking answers, finding solace and direction through his words. He witnessed families torn apart by sexual identity conflicts being reunited and healed. The ripple effect of his testimony stretched far beyond what he could have imagined, potentially saving countless souls from the eternal separation he had glimpsed. Yet, Jesus didn't shield Zachary from the difficulties that lay ahead. He showed him the support system that would be available: genuine Christians and counselors who understood the spiritual aspects of sexuality and could guide him through his transition. But he also revealed the opposition Zachary would face: the anger, the accusations of betrayal, and the painful loss of relationships he had once held dear. As the full scope of this potential future unfolded before him, Zachary felt a mixture of fear and determination well up within his spirit. The path back to earth would be fraught with challenges, but it also held the promise of profound purpose and the opportunity to help others find the truth he had discovered. In this divine courtroom, poised between two destinies, Zachary made his choice. With a blend of trepidation and resolve, he opted to return to his earthly life. He understood that his journey would not be easy, but he felt a deep sense of peace in choosing to live in alignment with the truth he had been shown. As Zachary's decision solidified, the heavenly courtroom began to fade from view. The next phase of his extraordinary journey was about to begin. A journey that would challenge him in ways he could scarcely imagine, but one that held the potential to impact countless lives for eternity. As the ethereal visions of heaven dissolved, Zachary's eyes fluttered open to a stark hospital room. The beeping of machines replaced the celestial chorus, but the weight of his experience lingered. How would he navigate this new reality, forever altered by what he had seen beyond the veil of mortality? Zachary's return to consciousness marked the beginning of an arduous journey. As he lay in his hospital bed, the magnitude of his task began to sink in. The physical pain from his injuries paled in comparison to the emotional and spiritual upheaval he now faced. Every belief, every relationship, every aspect of his identity had been irrevocably changed by his encounter with Jesus. The first challenge came when Marcus, his partner of 5 years, rushed to his bedside. The love and concern in Marcus's eyes were genuine, but Zachary now saw their relationship through a profoundly different lens. How could he explain the transformation he had undergone? The words felt inadequate, clumsy attempts to convey a truth that defied earthly understanding. As Zachary began to share his experience, he witnessed a range of reactions. Some, like his parents, listened with awe and a growing sense of spiritual awakening. Others, particularly his friends from the LGBTQ+ community, reacted with disbelief, anger, and accusations of internalized homophobia. The backlash was intense, just as Jesus had shown him it would be. Yet, amidst the turmoil, Zachary found unexpected allies. A local pastor, who had heard about his story, reached out with understanding and support. Through this connection, Zachary was introduced to a network of individuals who had undergone similar transformations. Their stories of struggle and triumph became a lifeline as he navigated his new path. As Zachary's physical wounds healed, he embarked on a journey of inner transformation. He sought counseling to help reconcile his past with his new convictions. The process was painful, forcing him to confront deep-seated beliefs and behaviors. Yet, with each step, he felt closer to the truth he had glimpsed in his near-death experience. Zachary's story began to spread, first locally, then through social media. It sparked intense debate and controversy. Many dismissed his account as a delusion brought on by trauma. Others saw it as a powerful testimony of divine intervention. The attention brought both support and criticism, forcing Zachary to confront the full weight of his newfound purpose. Driven by a desire to help others struggling with their sexual identity, Zachary started a support group. Unlike conversion therapy, which he saw as misguided, this group focused on sharing truth with love and compassion. It became a safe haven for individuals questioning their lifestyle or seeking to align their sexuality with their spiritual beliefs. 2 years after the accident, Zachary stood at the podium of a small community center, addressing a room full of people seeking answers. As he shared his story, he marveled at the journey that had brought him to this moment. The car crash that nearly claimed his life had become the catalyst for profound transformation, not just for him, but for the lives he now touched. Looking out at the faces before him, some tearful, others skeptical, Zachary felt a deep sense of purpose. He knew his journey was far from over. The path ahead would continue to challenge him, but he was no longer afraid. With each person he helped, with each truth he shared, he felt the ripples of his near-death experience spreading outward, touching lives in ways he could never have imagined. Zachary's journey serves as a profound reminder that true love often requires speaking difficult truths. His experience challenges us to consider the eternal consequences of our choices, not just for ourselves, but for those we influence. As we reflect on Zachary's transformation, we're compelled to examine our own lives and beliefs. While every individual's path is unique, the search for truth remains universal. Zachary's story invites us to look beyond cultural norms and personal desires, to seek a deeper understanding of our purpose and identity. It's a call to embrace authenticity, even when it means facing uncomfortable realities. In a world that often prioritizes personal fulfillment above all else, Zachary's account reminds us to consider the broader impact of our choices. It challenges us to approach life's big questions with humility and openness, recognizing that sometimes the most loving act is to speak truth even when it's difficult.